Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the UK Connection alongside Mr. Steven Reid and Simon Bray. What's happening, fellas? Steven, welcome back from Greece. Just
Thank you very much. Delighted to be back.
Good to have
It's
you.
lovely to be on the show, but I'm not delighted to be back.
Yeah, I can imagine. Simon, how you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
Cool.
I'm going on holiday in 33 days. Sorry, when this goes out, 30 days. Unless it goes out last week, in which case 40 days. I don't know. I just don't understand how this shit works.
This Saturday. So yeah, 30 days. 30 days.
Right, okay.
You are correct. Yeah, we've actually because Steven was on holiday, we kind of moved around our taping schedule. So I did the exact same thing as Simon did today. I'm like, now this is airing this Saturday, not next Saturday, right? Then I had to think about like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, so we figured it out. And occasionally we have a little bump in the road, and it takes us out of our schedule. But and as we get older, you know how hard it is to break away from routine, right? I know, me especially. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So. But needless to say, you folks watching are still getting your UK connection in the exact same moment it's supposed to be airing. So nothing wrong on your end. So today we are returning back to ranking the songs on a classic album. We have picked a very interesting classic album today that some folks who are watching Sea of Tranquility at this very second are like, since when is that a classic album? Well, this was a huge album. And granted, it's not totally 100% in, as Simon always so eloquently says, in the SOT paradigm. But sometimes it's good to do something a little bit different. And I will admit, coming from the US, I listened to these songs and this album quite a bit, not always by choice, back in the day. And this was the first time I've actually revisited this whole album through and through in like probably 35 years or so. So the album in question is Huey Lewis and the News, Sports. There it is. So again, maybe not a classic album, hard rock, metal, prog, what we normally do here, but a classic 80s rock pop album for sure. I think this album kind of floats a lot of different genres. So I don't know which one of you gentlemen wants to share some interesting factoids about this album before we get started on ranking the songs.
It's Stephen's fault, so let's do it, Stephen. You can go first. It's your suggestion. Go for it. Oh, beer. Shit.
Absolutely. Geez, I got to talking. Simon, start us off with the beer selection. Geez,
I can do that. I can do. I absolutely can do.
See what happens? We had a week off, and I totally went to shit. I apologize.
All those people sat watching, going, "Yes, they're not doing the beer. They're going to talk about music soon."
Thank you, Stephen. Good here. Certainly isn't me. I'm so wrapped up talking about Huey Lewis that I forgot about the most important thing, which is just sit and stare me in the face. I don't know how I missed it, but anyway, Simon, go ahead.
Oh, well, such is life. I've got a strong ruby ale today, which I didn't realize until just, before I joined the Zoom call. I think it's called Celsius. Is that what we're going with? Celsius?
Probably. I would say so.
I just looked at the thing and said it's from the Milltown Brewing Company. I thought, oh, well, that's what it is. Milltown. Oh, no, it's got a name. Shit. It's aged in bourbon oak cask with chocolate toffee and malt notes, and it's a 6% ABV. Now, I thought, with it being called the Milltown Brewery, I thought, that's going to be coming from Colne in Lancashire. You know, the Milltown birthplace? No, Milltown, no. Indy, no. Okay, anyway, it's from Yorkshire. So like practically everything I drink is so. Welcome to Milltown, where a character counts, and I'm a character, and this is my drink. And I started while I was sitting here waiting for you to, send the Zoom invite. So I can already confirm it's very nice. Look at that, Stephen. You can actually see it this week.
Oh, it looks fabulous.
Yeah, jewel glass. Lovely.
Dark, nice. But a little amber, right? Yep. There you go.
Oh, nice.
Cool. Sounds
good. That looks the real deal. Well, here I am going, we haven't done the beer, and I don't have a beer. I don't have a beer, but I know. Anyone that watched In the Prog Seat 2 shows ago, so I don't know how long ago that is, no idea, will have heard possibly the worst rendition of Happy Birthday that has ever been sung in public, thanks to my In the Prog Seat buddies. So for my birthday, I got a bottle of Bonfest rum. So this is from they are the gin bothy, but when they do a rum, they call it the rum bothy. It's clever, that. And they are in Kirriemuir, which is, of course, the birthplace of Bon Scott. So there's a festival, music festival every year called Bonfest. And this is a special rum that was created for it. I have sullied it with some ginger beer because that's how I like my rum. And it's fabulous. Very kind of vanilla-y, very smooth. And I just absolutely adore it. So, yes, I have rum today.
There you go. Stephen was so horrified by our piss poor rendition of Happy Birthday to Me, he had to go hit the bottle. It was pretty bad.
It was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it was much appreciated. It was bad.
It came from the heart. It came from the heart.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So I am drinking today. I don't know if I've ever had this on air before, but it's from one of my favorite breweries, local breweries from Beacon, New York, just across the Hudson River, actually 3 towns over from Poughkeepsie. It is Pocket Wrench. They like to do these because the brewery is industrial arts. They do these very industrial looking cans or tins, as you guys would say. And all the names are very kind of mechanical. So Pocket Wrench. This is a hazy pale ale, tropical and misty, 4.5 ABV. This is what it looks like in my little beaker glass. And I will say I've had this many, many times. It is quite delicious. If you like a nice, fruity, hoppy, but light, drinkable IPA, New England style IPA, this is great for the summertime.
It looks nice.
Yeah, a little tangerine, a little grapefruit. Wonderful. Maybe a little mango. Stephen's favorite pineapple, all that kind of stuff. This is quite good though. You would like it. It's just like a combination of all those things. It's very, very good.
I do like a beer that's a bit citrusy. So it sounds like it would be up my street.
Yeah, this is quite good. So now that we got the beer out of the way and the non-beer, we'll get back to sports. Stephen, you want to?
Yes. So I will take full responsibility for what is about to happen. This was my suggestion. There were kind of looks of when it was suggested, but here we are. We're doing sports, which is the 3rd album from Huey Lewis and the News. It was released on September 15th, 1983 through Chrysalis. And the band's lineup was, as it was for I think their first 7 albums, Huey Lewis on vocals and everyone's favourite instrument, harmonica. Chris Hayes on lead guitar, thank you very much. Johnny Cola on rhythm and sax, Sean Hopper on keyboards, Mario Cipollina on bass, and Bill Gibson on drums and percussion. And the band themselves produced the album. So this album spent 1 whole week at #1 in the US, and that didn't come about until the 30th of June, 1984, nearly 9 months after it was released. But it ended up being the 2nd largest selling album of '84 and stayed on the charts for a really quite impressive 160 weeks. So it was
forever. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
it was there. It was uncanny how long this was sitting on the top of the charts or close
I
to
think that's an awful lot to do with the fact that quite ridiculously, 6 of these 9 tracks were released as singles. 6 of them.
And most of them videos too.
Yes. Heart and Soul, I Want a New Drug, The Heart of Rock and Roll, and If This Is It all got into the top 10 in the US. And Walking on a Thin Line reached number 18, and Finally Found a Home didn't chart. That's the only one that didn't. In the UK, If This Is It, I can't say that obviously, was the only one to get into the top 40. And it got to number 39, so it kind of got in the top 40, didn't stay there very long. The album was certified 7 times platinum in the States. It went diamond in Canada, and it managed to go gold in the UK. So much as we discussed at the end of the Aussie show that Huey Lewis and the News weren't quite such big news in the UK, they did have some sort of presence. But then again, gold albums back then were kind of 10 a penny. So it's not really ginormous in those terms. But in the US, wow, absolutely huge.
Everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yep.
So I'm just curious because, as everybody knows, we've talked about it quite often. Simon and Stephen are pretty prolific on Twitter, and they oftentimes start up discussions about upcoming programming topics on Twitter with all of their followers, and many of those folks do watch the channel and watch the show. So, what was the early kind of chit chatter from some of the folks in the UK when they heard that we were doing this show? genuine horror, or just kind of like
No,
why? Or
I would say we're so far, and it's quite early because obviously we do record this not on the Saturday, so it's not been shared for long. The response, I would say, has been maybe 60-40. 60, I would say, going, eh? And 40 going, yay!
okay,
It's been, so it does seem to be, it does some people who like it, and they seem to really like it, and the band. And there are others that are just kind of going, I mean, I got a GIF or whatever you want to call it underneath the post, so just someone kind of going, so, but they'll watch for the beer segment, so hence why I was like,
There's a gif of Jason Bateman, you know. I mean, not just someone. Jason Bateman, you know, Arrested Development, Ozark.
so yes, that's true. Excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it is, I suppose it was more kind of.
We can say this because there were quite a few people saying I'll switch off after the beer bit.
honestly, I think people love us so much that they're going to watch regardless. As Gary Joyce always says, Saturday afternoon on SOT is the funniest hour of TV known to man.
Well, I may be putting that to the test with this choice.
We shall see, right? We shall see. All right, so we got 9 songs, so we'll go 3 songs, right?
Pete,
Context.
have you not seen this show before?
Jesus.
Am I
Can I write this down?
Right,
I'm
Simon.
telling you that week in between.
It's me who's confused. Me. That's my job. You can't be confused. You're in charge.
You hold it all together. Come
Not
on.
today. I'm not. We're recording an hour earlier. We're doing it a week later. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Sorry, guys. My dogs don't even know. They both just left the room. They're like, screw this.
You've got a Huey Lewis. Oh.
Sorry, Simon. I apologize.
Shall I contextualize first? I'll do it first. As you said, it came out on the 14th of September, charted the week after at number 43, then zoomed up to 23, and then promptly disappeared 2 weeks later here in the UK. Now, I've looked at the top 100, and there's not very much to take the piss out of this week. For the week 29th of September 1985. Kate Bush, Hounds of Love was number 1. Solid stuff. I think we can all agree.
Yes.
Like a Virgin was number 2. Big hit album. Brothers in Arms 3. Misplaced Childhood.
I think we've heard of that one before.
It's not recently, and I don't know why. But anyhow, Stevie Wonder and more with Kenny Rogers. Yay. Thompson Twins. Billy Idol. Did we see him at Glastonbury last weekend? Always tremendous. Yeah. Very, very little to take the piss out of, other than the various artist albums, which are called Open Top Cars and Girls in T-Shirts. I can't even tell if that's pop music or just don't know. Street Sounds Electro 9, and that's my favorite Street Sounds Electro of all the lot of them. All the rest are a bit dodgy, but Street Sounds Electro 9 was really good. Bruce Springsteen, Tina Turner, U2, Mark Almond, and the 23 was Huey Lewis and the News, just one above Gary Newman. So, actually, for a British chart, relatively normal. Yes, Stephen?
Okay, so Open Top Cars and Girls in T-Shirts. This is quite good.
Oh.
We have, it's a double album, and we've got the Eagles, Chicago, John Cougar, REO Speedwagon, Carly Simon, David Gates, Fleetwood Mac, Rick Springfield, Men at Work, Toto, Roxy Music, Bread, the Doobie Brothers, they're great. Eric Clapton, the Little River Band, Hall & Oates, the Lovin' Spoonful, and more. Get your copy now, folks.
There we go. So there were quite a lot of compilations like that of like American bands that were mostly melodic rock, but then they threw in somebody like John Cougar Mellencamp or Men at Work, didn't they? Or Split Ends were often on those kind of compilations, weirdly.
Yeah.
And Wang Chung.
Everybody's going to
Wang Chung
tonight. Yeah, I'll be Wang Chunging later. But that's enough about me. Anyway, Stephen, tell us about the American charts at the time, my friend.
Yes, let's move on from that dubious comment. So yes. So I've gone for June 1984 when it topped the charts. So sports topped the charts, June 84. And yeah, same again. I mean, the US chart does seem to be much more sane than the UK charts, for want of a better turn of phrase. And this is kind of borne out again. So the rest of the top 10 was the Footloose soundtrack. Then Born in the USA at number 3, obviously by Bruce Springsteen. Can't Slow Down by the mighty Lionel Richie at number 4.
He's on at the Rhythm Festival yesterday.
Nice. He's great.
Tonight. I don't know. I just can't understand this shit. I just don't know. I don't understand. But he's on this week.
Yes. Yeah, he has rhythmed.
He's rhythm and Def Leppard and Motley Crue are on in 4 days / tomorrow.
Anyway, so number 5 is The Cars with Heartbreak City. Number 6, Cyndi Lauper with She's So Unusual. 1984, Falling Off by Van Halen at number 7. Thriller at number 8, Love at First Sting by Scorpions at number 9. And 7, And the Ragged Tiger by Duran Duran at number 10. And then outside the top 10, so between the top 10 and number 30, you have that man Billy Idol, Steve Perry with Street Talk, Night Ranger, ZZ Top with Eliminator, Rush, Grace Under Pressure, and Rat, Out of the Cellar. Loads more too, but that's the ones that you kind of, well, that's just in the top 30, and there's easily, I've got most of that.
Yeah, that's quite the list. Yeah, for sure.
Isn't it?
Steve Perry, Street Talk. I've listened to that recently, and I just don't know why.
I wonder.
Well, we move on.
I'm afraid to say anything, so someone get started. Apparently, I've got amnesia since the last time we all spoke here, so you know. Anyway, we got 9 in total.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do groups of 3. We'll start with Simon, his bottom 3, I guess.
Oh, thank you. When this was mooted, and I believe, Stephen, I think you said that this would like bring in like people who were just like casually interested in the channel, or people that will never watch again. But I had at that point never ever listened to Sports by Huey Lewis and the News.
Okay.
And at that point, I did not own a copy of Sports by Huey Lewis and the News, but I listened to it. I thought, holy shit, I know practically everything. Not on this record. No, you're right. They weren't massive over here, but you do. In the past, you could be a radio artist, not necessarily sell gazillions of records, and be really well known. I would imagine that practically everybody of a certain age knows who Huey Lewis is.
Yep.
But
I think so.
Any number ones? No. Oh, but enough hits singles wise for him to be very well known. It was always on. There's a period when you thought, oh, Huey Lewis is on top of the pops every week. You know. But anyhow, we'll come to that. So then eventually I went to a record fair and I saw it for just £5 of my earth pounds. So I thought, I'm having that. What a lovely cover.
Yes, isn't it?
Nice warm kind of cover, and then it's got Cheers on the back, and Robson Green float very much fronting the band there. You familiar with Robson Green?
No.
No, you are missing nothing.
You need to buy some of his records. They're really good. No. Okay, so I realized that I knew most of these, and if you add on songs from Back to the Future, which I currently can't remember the name of, but if I keep on talking, I'll get to Power of Love and If You Believe in Love. You're not that far off a greatest hits album, are you?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, there's a few others that you would add in, but pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, there's like 2 or 3 songs from the album before this, Power of Love, and a couple from the album after this, and that's the greatest hits right there, and everything on here, or almost everything. Yeah.
So anyhow, it's my job to demolish the ones I don't like, isn't it? Yes. It's a really good-natured record, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
And I remember in the comments last week, some people saying, "Oh, you're going to be laying into them because everybody hates Huey Lewis." I've never seen a bad word about Huey Lewis and the News. I've never really said anything about them, to be honest. But he always comes across as a very nice kind of guy, doesn't he? Or especially now he's losing his hearing, isn't he? And he always comes across as like a really nice human being, and I think that goes a long way. I
Plus,
think
he
it
was buddies
permeates.
with Phil Lynott, right? So that right there, that's
There you go. Yes.
Yep.
I think it permeates through this record, which makes me feel quite sad to say that number 9 is Honky Tonk Blues, which doesn't need to be on this record as far as I'm concerned. That said, the piano work is fantastic. That's really, 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 as Jim Bowen would say, a little bit special. Don't you think? There's some really good piano work there.
Super.
Super smashing, terrific. Let's have a look at what you could have won. Well, you could have won a steel guitar, because there's some steel guitar on it, but I don't think it fits with the rest of it. But it is very, very pub rocky, isn't it? Which is, I think kind of like if he was over here for a while, wasn't he? Pub rocking and being Phil Lynott's mate. So yeah, it's not terrible. And actually, when I listened to it this afternoon, I thought actually I'm liking this more and more. But it's still number 9. My number 8 is Bad is Bad, which initially I wrote shite. And then I don't remember if you do, I'm sure you do, Stephen, that in the 80s, the BBC used to show concerts late at night, which they must have hoovered up quite cheaply. And I remember, and I mentioned on Twitter recently, they had the Oriole Speedwagon from Kemper Arena for ages on VHS. Well, there's a Huey Lewis one as well. And I distinctly remember him walking out going, "This is a drum machine." As if it was like the greatest thing in the world, when in fact it's completely evil. And I feel like it probably makes an appearance on Bad is Bad, which I'm just, there's quite a lot of doo-woppy kind of sounds throughout the album, aren't there? And I don't know if that's throughout his oeuvre. Yeah, maybe it's a US thing, because Billy Joel does quite a lot of that stuff, doesn't he? But it's it's all right. It's just it's not the great stuff, but it doesn't make me want to throw up and die. My number 7, he said, controversially, possibly, who knows, is I Want a New Drug. Now, we've been told, have we not, that we have to mention Ghostbusters at this point? Holy shit. I mean, it's just a little bit similar, isn't it? Just a tad. You see, now, if I had been writing the theme for Ghostbusters, because I never heard I Want a New Dog for about 20 years after it came out. I would have absolute plausible ability to say, there you go. But I feel like it was a massive US hit, wasn't it?
It was a fair size there, yeah.
And yeah, arguably the court case and surrounding things of I Want a New Dog is the most interesting thing about the song. It's just not. It's not my favorite, but I do like everything else from here on in. Oh, sorry, very much like everything else from here on in. I like pop rock. I think there should be more pop rock in the Sea of Tranquility.
We squeeze it in when we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When I suggested this, sorry, Simon.
That's my 9 is Honky Tonk Blues, 8 is Bad is Bad, and 7 is I Want a New Drug.
By the way, before I forget, because Simon just mentioned it about how we should feature more pop rock on this channel. I reviewed it this morning, and I would highly recommend this to both of you. It's the brand new album from the Guess Who. It's basically pop rock, power pop, kind of AOR. Honestly, if you told me that this was like an album that Cats in Space recorded, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. It's called,
and is it that good?
Plan d'Amour. I like it. It's really fun. Does it sound like the Guess Who?
Is Cats in Space good?
Not quite as good, but it's along those same lines. Yeah. Really memorable songs. It's only 8 tracks. It's like 35 minutes long. Like I said, it doesn't sound like the Guess Who, like from what we remember the Guess Who from way back in the day, but as a really good kind of pop rock album, it's quite good. It's quite good. Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway,
sorry, as I've already said, when I suggested this, I was quite surprised that neither of us had really heard it in a long, long time. But I was confident that at least one of the two of you, which is Mr. Bray, Uncle Simon, would kind of go, "Oh, okay, this is better than I anticipated." But I think you've got to kind of bring yourself into this album. You have to go in with the thought that I really like this album. I really like this band. It's throwaway fun. It's not all throwaway, but it's fun. It's just there to have a good time with. It's a bit serious in places, but it even does that with a lot of fun. But even then, yes, number 9 is Honky Tonk Blues because it's not very good. I mean, it's a Hank Williams cover, I think. It's called Honky Tonk Blues. You know what it's going to sound like, and it just does exactly that. But yes, there is a little bit of this sprinkled throughout the catalogue at the beginning and at the end of the catalogue as well. They're much less of this kind of pop rock fun sort of band, and they're definitely trying to be much more kind of savvy and with it. I don't think it works as well as when they just kind of go, let's have a party. And Honky Tonk Blues is kind of somewhere in between. It just doesn't really do it for very much for me at all. And even on a 9-track album, I'll admit that it's filler, which is, that doesn't say much, to be fair. You don't need filler on a 9-track album, but there you go. Showing how much Uncle Simon knows, number 8 is Bad is Bad. Okay. I didn't think this would be a controversial choice when I brought this album in, because to me, there's not very much a kind of, we're version to melodic rock here. It is pop rock and it is chart rock and all these various things, but buried underneath a lot of what's going on, there are some decent riffs. However, yes, this is much more overtly 50s, much more kind of doo-wop. The strange thing is that this was written when Huey was in the band Clover, and that's where the link with Phil Lynott comes in. And Thin Lizzy actually used to do Bad is Bad on occasion, and if you go hunting on YouTube, you will find a demo version of Bad is Bad. It's not the best Thin Lizzy song you're ever going to hear, but it's better than this version. There's a much better song in here than this one became. And after that, I'm now on board. That's those two out of the way. But then again, my number 7 is I Want a New Drug. There you go. This is going to be interesting, Simon, because so far we are completely aligned. So yeah, I mean, who are you going to call? Realistic? Well, it would appear you're going to call whoever wrote Huey Lewis's songs. Yes. I mean, it's as blatant as it gets. It's an absolute lift. Yes, there was a court case. It was settled out of court. That in itself tells you all you need to know. I believe that there was one of these clauses where therefore you can no longer talk about it after it was settled. But of course, Huey did many moons ago. So Ray Parker Jr. came back and I think countersued. No idea how that went. You can't find out how that went. So I presume that whatever was settled there, everyone has decided that the best thing to do is just not talk about it. But yeah, I like the fact that Huey himself kind of said that the idea was that this is what we want your song for Ghostbusters to sound like. Go on, Ray Parker Jr., go and write a song like that. And he basically wrote that song. And Huey Lewis's take on it is that for Ghostbusters, they wanted a piece of what Huey Lewis and the News had at that time because they were hot. There's no two ways about it. They were hot. And he says, well, but you just can't buy that. And then he went, well, actually, I suppose it would appear in the end you did. Yeah. And that kind of sums the song up. It really is. You listen to it and you kind of, if you don't know the order in which they came, you presume, why have they ripped off Ghostbusters? That's a really odd move. But it is pretty much bang on the money, and it worked the other way around. So yeah, so far, myself and Uncle Simon are completely aligned.
We won't carry on this way.
My number 9 is Honky Tonk Blues. To me, it's just like a throwaway rockabilly, blues, boogie, rave up. You know, it sounds completely out of place on this album. Completely out of place. That was easy number 8 for me. Number 9, as was my number 8, which is Bad is Bad. Yeah, I listened to that song and I never owned this album, but my ex-girlfriend at the time had this, and so I heard this quite a lot when it first came out. Plus, like we said, most of the songs were played on the radio or on MTV. But Bad is Bad, there's a reason why that was never released as a single or made a video out of it, because it's bland. For me, the song never gets out of first gear. It's kind of bluesy, laid back. I don't know. Plus, way too much harmonica on it for me. No thanks. No good. So yeah, those are the only 2 bad tracks on this album for me. Everything else I can enjoy. And my number 7, I actually think is a pretty good song, but something's got to go in number 7. I'm going to go with You Crack Me Up. I mean, it's fun. It's got bits of hard rock. It's got bits of new wave. You know what, I get a little, it's funny, in listening to this album again for the first time in many, many years, I get, and this might not be a band that maybe crossed your radar at all over there, but I get a strong vibe of the Tubes on a lot of songs on this album. And it's not so much vocally, but I think it's the way they kind of blend pop and new wave and rock, and the use of synthesizers and the pretty damn good guitar work that's, you know, doing lots of really good things on there. I don't know, I listen to some of these songs and there's this just kind of feel of fun and like exuberance that reminds me of the way the Tubes were writing a lot of their music right around the same time, maybe even a little bit early, because the Tubes were kind of breaking big right around the same time as this, maybe just slightly before. So, but I think You Crack Me Up is a really fun song. I like it quite a bit. Something's got to go at number 7. Everything from here up I really like a lot, so I'll turn it back over to Simon.
Okay, thank you. I like everything from here on up a lot as well. 6, I've gone for Heart and Soul, which I do believe is a Mike Chapman song. It may even be a Chinny Chap song. Is it a Chinny Chap song? It's a Chinny Chap song.
It's a Chinny Chap song. Yes, it is. Yep.
Chinny Chap wrote so many great tunes, didn't they?
Yes, indeed.
They wrote for Blondie and for... Oh, I just want to show my Susie Quattro box set one more time because it's never left the table since I got it. It's so good. It's a really good, fun tune. I like it a lot. Just sitting there at number 6 going, look at me. I was a big hit. Yeah, I was poppy yet rocky, and I think therein lies the beauty. There are, like you said, within the songs, they're so well arranged that there's at times you think, oh, that's a bit poppy, but I like pop music, and then you think, oh, look at that guitar, oh, that's good. I don't know if you do it in that entirely camp way like I just did, but you know, yeah, such is life. Oh, yeah, oh, nice guitar, yes. My 5 is the Heart of Rock and Roll. Hey, it's quite literally still beating.
In Cleveland.
Very much
Cleveland.
so.
Yep.
Where else would it be? You know, they knew. Is that where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is?
Yes.
They knew what was coming, didn't they? Huey's got his shit together on that one. Yeah. And I'm a sucker for crappy gimmicks. I love the way it starts with the heartbeat. Yeah, which I assume is a drum, but you know, I'd like to think that they put a microphone on someone's heart and just, you know, no, they didn't, did they? So she's like, it's gone in it, yay! Can only imagine how much Pete likes saxophone.
I like saxophone quite a bit, actually.
Oh, I'm disappointed by that. Genuinely disappointed. The keyboards are groovy. You know, that saxophone gives you that kind of Bob Seger kind of feel. And I don't think we talk about Bob Seger enough on Sea of Tranquility. I just want to get that. While I'm getting shit out in the open, I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough Bob on Sea of Tranquility. Certainly not on the UK connection. But anyhow,
I might have, you know, open up the comments to that one because I've heard that before from folks.
I love me some Bob, and I do like the way that, you know, they walk right up to saying the word arse and then walk all the way back. Because otherwise, you're not getting played on the radio, are you?
Nope.
No. Yeah, so what you like about Blondie, but they did say arse and Heart of Glass. So yeah, my 4 is You Crack Me Up. I have no idea why this wasn't a single.
It's a good song.
A hit single, sorry. It's a good song. I love the rapid delivery. The guitar work's tremendous. Just comes in, does a bit, comes in, does a bit, does a bit. You know, just remind me, is it Chris Hayes? Is that his name?
Yep.
He's a really good player, actually. Really good.
He's excellent throughout. You know, just comes in, does his little bit, jogs on. Jobs are good. And like you said, Pete, it's a really fun kind of track. And I think the new wavier, hello, kind of songs, as you're about to find out, really kind of work for me. I think we're now into the really good stuff. But I was going to say something, you know, like we always say about the, you know, the good stuff's in the weeds. It's not necessarily the hit. And then you look at your 9 and your 8, and you think, no, the hits are pretty good.
For some bands, yeah, that is the case. Yep, for sure.
Just demolished my own arguments, but yeah, You Crack Me Up is my number 4.
Cool.
Yes, I really like the mix on this album because I think it's really clever. It's, as Simon has just mentioned, really well arranged. There is an element where you could just give these songs a listening and go, this is just throwaway stuff. It is just, it's pop hits and various. It's not. It's rock and roll, doo-wop. It's hard rock in places, a little bit. It is poppy in places. It kind of puts all of that together. And yeah, okay, it seems to repel some people, but I think it managed to bring a whole lot of people together that probably wouldn't necessarily like the same music normally. It's just kind of got that kind of appeal. And then you add a guy at the front who probably isn't the best singer in the world. Man, oh man, does he live every word. Huey lives every word on this album. I think he's really good. And I've mentioned him before when we were going through, favourite gigs from favourite years and all that kind of stuff many moons ago. And on stage, what a charismatic performer he is. You just can't take your eyes off him. You put all that together, and you have an album that really hangs together, because everything from here on in, for me, is really, really good. I've got Finally Found a Home coming up next. It's a little too pleasant for its own good. The verses on the album are sometimes a little bit of an afterthought. It really is all about, let's just hurry up and get to the chorus. That's why we're all here. What we worried about anything else. And yet, there's a decent guitar solo in here. It's maybe a bit sappy in places. And I even go as far as to say some of it doesn't feel particularly fleshed out, but it's still a really good song. It's got a good vibe and a good feel. I've got You Crack Me Up at number 5, one of the more kind of obviously forceful songs on the album. I think, interestingly, why this maybe wasn't a huge hit is because it doesn't quite have that chorus that you're going to sing for days. The chorus is, you crack me up, and then it kind of moves on, and yeah, there's more to the chorus than that, but it's not like we repeat it 45 times, and that is the theme of what works and what really works here. So I would reckon that's why it didn't kind of explode as a hit. The guitars bite harder than other places, and the rhythm track is just, happy to sit there. I really like it. It's cleverly put together. And then at number 4, I've got The Heart of Rock and Roll. I just kind of think that it sums up this band. It's catchy, it's easily digested, it's fun, but it sticks in the mind for so long. It really sums up just what the whole album and the whole band were about for a period of time. Yes, it's got the sax solo, which I don't mind. I'm not a massive sax fan, but it is the kind of perfect mid-song break here. It does kind of say, let's have a breath, let's do that, and let's move back on again. And I love the video. The videos for this album are just so good and so bad all at the same time.
They're entertaining. Yeah, they're entertaining, but yeah, it's just...
Yeah. And I like the message behind the video for this one, because rather than kind of try and be clever and kind of say, do you know what, we play rock and roll and nobody else does, the video really kind of looks at a lot of different aspects of what has come from rock and roll and goes, well, yeah, that's rock and roll, and that's rock and roll, and this is rock and roll. It's all rock and roll. So what on earth are we worried about? And I really get on board with that. I just really like the way that it puts that message across of, you know what, we all come from the same place, really. So let's just like what we like and get on with it. So yeah, some of the videos are not quite as clever as that, though. I would suggest.
Interesting. A very famous man named Lemmy once said, "We are Motorhead, we play rock and roll." Motorhead, Huey Lewis and the News.
Meet somewhere.
I don't like. What do you call this? I know. Yeah, it's maddening.
Maybe not.
God. Where are we? Number 6. My number 6 is If This Is It. So, you hear, again, I listened to this recently and just kind of took me back to 1983. I mean, this was a monster hit here, but I think for me, it's my least favorite of all the monster hits. I think it's really clever. I really respect the kind of genius of the song, because really what they've done is they've blended like 80s pop and like 50s, 60s, early rock and doo-wop and all that stuff. The backing vocals are so well done. Hooks to die for. So even though I'm not an enormous fan of it, I fully recognize how great of a song it is. Really, really good. I really didn't look. I don't know if you guys know, but like, what was the biggest hit out of all these here in the States out of these? I don't remember which one charted higher. Might have been that one.
I think there were 2 or 3 that got to, I think there were 2 that got to number 6 and 2 that got to number 8.
Okay.
So I'm not 100% sure which was which.
Yeah, I don't know. That was one of them. I mean, it was everywhere for a while. But yeah, it's not one of my favorites of their bigger songs, but I totally know how great of a song it is. It really is. Number 5 is Finally Found a Home. Good, solid track. I mean, it's a good rocker. The chorus is big and bright. I mean, I like the nice chugging riff on it. I think it's really good. I think that a song like Finally Found a Home shows that at their core, this was a really good rock band, and they could rock hard when they wanted to. You know, most of the time they decided not to, but I think that this showed a nice side to them. It's a really good, deep cut on this album. I like it quite a bit. That's my number 5. And number 4 is The Heart of Rock and Roll. Another one all over the radio. Again, whether they're in Cleveland or New York, San Antonio, all the other places they mention on the album. It's very cliche ridden, but it's almost like it doesn't matter. It's got that certain it factor, which really latched on to millions of people here. It's really funny, like how, you know, so many people bought this album, listened to this album, went gaga when they played these songs on the radio, and now you talk to people and they're like, oh, Huey Lewis and the News, sports. I'm like, I bet you were one of the 7 million that weren't saying that 35, 40 years ago, buddy. You know. So anyway, but yeah, Heart of Rock and Roll, good song. I like the sax solo. I don't mind sax at all. But yeah, good song, good hit. It's one of their classics.
Okay, so I have looked up the singles, and I Want a New Drug, Heart of Rock and Roll, and If This Is It all got to number 6. Okay, but I Want a New Drug went gold, so I would guess that that's the big seller. Heart and Soul got to number 8. Walking on a Thin Line got to number 18.
Okay. That's all really impressive when you really think about it. That's more than half the album.
Yeah, it's an incredible strike rate. It really is. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Simon, the top 3.
Somewhat off topic before we move on. You were saying about how you know, there were 7 million people bought that record and they kind of like could sing it. Things that are hits these days, because we live in such a segregated kind of world. I couldn't tell you anything about Beyonce. Couldn't nothing.
Right.
Yeah. She sells shitloads of records. Ed Sheeran, not a clue.
That's a great point. But everybody who says they don't like this album or this artist or this band, they know all these songs, right? They know every one of them. Yeah. They may not like them. They may not have a good memory of them, but you're absolutely right. So I'm guilty of that too. You could name 5 artists who are huge today, and I probably couldn't name any song by any of them. I probably heard a bunch of them, but
yeah, I just thought
that's very much to do with how
that shows you how it just shows you how times have changed when it comes to music and music consumption over the decades.
Right? Yeah, we no longer have that shared experience, do we?
Yes. No. I don't think it's just consumption, though. I think, well, it is because we consume it the way that it's given to us, or not, as the case may be. Right. I think the difference was that back in the day, I knew about Huey Lewis because it turned up on things like America's Top 10, which we got at 2 o'clock in the morning over here with Casey Kasem. You know, keep your feet in the ground.
Well, right, because you had those right? mediums, right? So everybody back then listened to radio, watched MTV, and bought music. That's it.
Yes.
So this streaming platform, that streaming platform, YouTube, this, that, this tube, they tube, this, it's all over the place now. So there's not 3 places you can go to listen to your music anymore. So,
yeah, but I think the difference is the charts don't matter.
Yeah.
The charts used to matter back then. We did Top of the Pops, we did America's Top 10 and all these kind of things. It all mattered. Now, if you want to know what the charts is, well, I need to Google it because you don't hear it. You don't find out about it. It's not out there. It's not a big thing. Let's get to Sunday and see what's number 1. Nobody cares anymore. If you look at what is mainstream music over here, what's presented on terrestrial TV, I'm on my soapbox now. Here we've got a mini rant mid-show, unplanned. It's things like Jules Holland. Okay, I've seen lots of things on Jules Holland that I like, but it's usually filled with some Nepalese nose flute. Do you know, it's really pretentious. And they won't touch rock music with a barge pole. But at the same time, they also won't touch an awful lot of what's popular, strangely enough. So as Simon's mentioned, I mean, I would guess that Ed Sheeran's been on it. I would guess that Beyonce's not, and all this kind of stuff. but you don't have those touching points where actually you are going to hear Grandma, We Love You by Clive Dunn on the same show that you're going to get The Sweet on, or whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean? You don't get that kind of conglomeration of music anymore. Somebody's very selectively gone, this is the 3 or 4 things I want you to know about, and then we'll move on. So
Yep.
we've all kind of segregated out, as Simon mentioned, and we all do our own thing now.
Yep. Yep.
As we always did too, to be fair. Anyway, sorry, excuse me. Back to our scheduled
I mean,
program.
that's you could talk and do an entire show on this topic. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Does my head in. Absolutely does.
People who are really young who are watching the show who only know the way it is today probably are looking at us like, oh, those dinosaurs, what are they complaining about? But that's the difference. Back then, that's how it was. An album like this, whether you liked it or not, everybody knew it. You couldn't escape it. It's like, now it's like there could be an album that's like number 1 on the charts and has a bunch. I would never hear it, never, unless I went and saw it, seeked it out.
I go as far as to say there's acts that can get a number 1 album these days, and I still haven't heard of them. And you go back 20 years, and that just wasn't possible.
Right, 100%. Yep.
Anyway, sorry.
And when that topic is discussed at the Funhouse, me and Stephen will take a cut of that one. Also,
well, maybe we just invite
just
Mr. Martin Popoff on a UK Connection show. We just talk about it on here, right?
Oh, we could have a Commonwealth connection.
The Commonwealth connection.
Yeah. Just throwing it out there. Yeah. Also, I've just crossed Clive Dunn off my UK Connection bingo. So good times. Clive Dunn was a very old man. He was a middle-aged man pretending to be a young man who had a hit. Pretending to be a granddad.
And if you need,
I've learned to just sit and nod, and hopefully,
if you need any more context, this will help you a lot. They don't like it up them, and we'll just leave it there.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. My number 3 to get the strip. God, there's a world in which I'm getting the show back on track. All right. So my number 3 is
isn't me today. Let me tell you.
Finally found a home. I wrote down in capitals what Pete said previously. So well done. This is so well done. Now everything about most of these are so well done, and that's actually praise. It's not, oh, that's so well done, but they are so well done because they're so well constructed, and this one is as well. The Sean Hopper keyboards, just underpinning everything. They're just working away, not doing anything fancy. Just and Chris Hayes again is chugging guitars. I think you mentioned, Pete, just so good. And then finally found a home. Yeah, fine. Yeah, I love it. Can't believe it wasn't one of the hits either. My 2 is Walking on a Thin Line. Proper 80s pop / rock. That's something the 80s did really well. Just tiptoeing up to the line of pop, having a little look over, and going back, and then going up to rock. A little look. I did that in. I once looked into Zimbabwe and walked back out, but that's not important right now. I really like the Super Taste. I did. I looked over the border, but anyhow, Super Tasty's solo. Production-wise, it reminds me of Eliminator with the synthy qualities. Yeah, just thought stop pulling your face. Yeah, big fat production. It's one of those productions where I think I said last time about how everything bounces around when you play that loudly on the cover. I think it does with this as well. Again, it's just so well arranged, such a well arranged, and not just pop rocky, but new wavy as well. So it's got loads of things coming on. Like you're saying, you've got your doo-wop, you've got your screaming guitars, relatively screaming guitars. It's just a hodgepodge of everything that people like, and you can see why it sold shitloads of copies.
Yeah,
as an album, and Walking on a Thin Line is a really good tune. My number 1, right, for a very, very long time, up until about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I owned one piece of Huey Lewis and the News. That's right. I've got Sean Hopper in this little cupboard over here. No, no. I owned one next to John Potter. That's right. I owned one piece of Huey Lewis and the News, and I do like If This Is It. But there's a proper reason why I like If This Is It. And here's the gatefold single. Yeah, look at that. Check it out. Live recordings as well. Yeah. Anyway, I do actually like the song, but if I can get through this, right? This song, this very song, is one of the very last things that I ever talked to my dad about. He said, Simon, Huey Lewis and the News. If this is it, it's going to be a big hit. Now, we clearly was wrong. Number 39 is not a big hit, but it came out in October 84, and he died a month later. And it's one of the very last things I remember him saying to me. So just for purely oh my god reasons, every time I hear that, close my eyes, there he is. But and here's the really weird thing: I have to choose it myself. I have to choose to play this record. If it twice in my life it's come on the radio and I didn't know it was coming on, and I just burst into tears both times. Which is weird because I really like it, but I need for me to choose it. I need for me to pick it because
you got to be prepared to put it on and be ready for
exactly.
it. Yeah,
exactly. I've got to realize that I know it's going to be a hit. It was completely wrong, but what a great tune. You know,
well, he was right about it here.
Yeah, what a really good tune. You know, it's one of those like absolute earworms. You know, it's always my go-to Huey Lewis song. Always. If I had a Huey Lewis go-to song. For a long time, it was the only one I had, so it kind of had to be. Number one.
Well, I just want to
raining
thank you.
so hard here right now. It sounds like there's bullets coming down on my house.
You shouldn't have moved to Fallujah, should you?
Crazy.
Yeah.
I would imagine that is the people complaining that we're doing Huey Lewis in the news.
Yeah, right.
Find out where you live.
The weather gods are like, "Fuck you, Pardo and company. We hate this album." Here's some rain for you.
I want to thank Simon because we're doing a whole show on Huey Lewis in the News, and this is the catchiest stuff in the world. And I'm going to leave this show singing, "I just called to say Zimbabwe." Do you know? Anyway, number 3, okay, it is If This Is It. I mean, if George LeMay has stuck it out this far on a Huey Lewis show, thanks, George. He's never seen that part. Okay, he'll be appalled that I'm placing the soft quite so high. Yep. You know, but I mean, it's a blatant reworking of so many kind of old rock and roll crooner hits, but it's great, it's catchy, it's memorable, it seems to come from the heart. But the video, oh, it's hilarious, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it tries to capture every stereotype of the kind of bozos that you would see on the beach, and all these kind of people. You know, there's the posers, there's the clowns, there's all of these characters, and yet the least cool is Huey Lewis. Somehow he manages to be the least cool. He turns up on the beach in black jeans and a red polo shirt. And it really takes me a long time. I mean, I know that this is him working out, is this relationship going to work? You know, she's with these guys. This is his squeeze. And she's with these guys. And he needs to know, is this over? Is this it? And he looks like a dad. He seems to have this thing about him where he looked like he was about 50 at this point, you know, and he's playing this kind of cool guy that's come over to speak to the gal, and you look at me and you go, "Leave that girl alone, you old man." It's a bit creepy.
But he still only looks like he's about 55 now, doesn't he?
He's always been 50, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Never since, yeah, I think he was born at the age of 50. You know, it's like, but it's just one of those videos that every time you watch it, you just kind of, this is just. Who thought that the best thing to put him in for this? I mean, he clearly didn't want to go in his Speedos. I get that. I'm okay with that, Huey. I didn't need to see that either. But black jeans and a red polo shirt to be the main guy.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. He never looked or sounded like the prototypical frontman, right?
Yeah.
It's just like he just had this kind of like every guy look, right? It was nothing really special about him. He looked like someone's dad, right? I mean, it's yeah.
Absolutely. And yet still it worked. It absolutely
Yeah,
worked.
yeah.
And that was the key to it. I think it, in many ways, the whole approach of the band made them very accessible. I love this cover. I love an album cover that has all the band on it, but they're not just kind of going, you know, they're all posing in the background. Okay, yeah, okay, Huey's like, hi. But, you know, they're all just kind of there. They're all kind of sort of happy to stand in the background. I really like that sort of thing. It just makes it an awful lot more personable. But there you go. Number 2, Heart and Soul. I mean, it could be argued that Huey was as I say, a reasonably ordinary singer. He's a really good ordinary singer, though. You would never put him on and say, do you know what? He's got one of the best voices that you're ever going to hear in rock or pop. And yet, I can't imagine anyone better doing these kind of songs because the vocal delivery is just on the money. So, you know, he's, as I said before, he's living and breathing every word, and he brings you in, he makes you part of the song. It's a skill that a lot of really good singers don't really have. Add the charisma that he has on stage, and I saw the band at the wrong time. They were great, don't get me wrong, but half the band had kind of frittered away and gone and done other things, or not been invited back, shall we say. But they were still great, and he was amazing. But it's got a pretty kick-ass riff. Do you know, there's so much going on here that sometimes you don't listen in and go, wow, that's actually a proper riff that's going on there. Some really good, excellent percussion work's going on here. And yes, the keyboards are pure 80s cheese, but it was the 80s. And people poured a lot of cheese on their music back then. And yes, it is a Chinny Chap song. And as Simon's already mentioned, yeah, Susie Quattro, The Sweet, Mud, Tony Blackburn. There's lots and lots of great songs that came from those two. And this is another one. And it was a cover of somebody else's, but it was never a hit before. But it's just such a good song. And number 1 for me is Walking on a Thin Line. This is a song that I will always take away from this album. It's just such a kind of good time song. It's just got such a good feel about it. But it's also got a bit of a message. This is about veterans coming back from, you know, conflicts and not being valued in society. It's not as throwaway as you think. And as some of the best message songs are, it's delivered in a way that you just go, walking on a thin line. You don't necessarily go, oh, wow, I'm being educated here. This is all about my education. But if you read the lyrics, you kind of go, oh, actually, this is not just about having a party and getting your girl and having a good time. Do you know? And it's such a clever thing to be able to do, to put all that together, make it a hit, and have people sing it as they leave a venue. It's a really good song. Yeah, Walking on a Thin Line is my number 1.
Cool. My number 3 is I Want a New Drug. I fully admit it's a silly song, but I always kind of liked it. You know, musically, again, I mentioned the tubes earlier. I mean, some of the guitar licks and things that Chris Hayes is playing on this song the arrangement reminds me so much of the tubes in a weird way. And, you know, I fully agree that the synth sounds are really dated. You know, the drums sound really dated, but who cares? It's a fun song. It was a huge hit here, and the video is wacky fun as well. So that's my number 3. My number 2 is Walking on a Thin Line. I agree with you, Steven. I think it's easily the most underrated song on this album. I almost had it as my number 1. I love the catchy chorus. So good. Again, the synth, the drums, a little dated, but who cares? The guitar work is so crisp, really, really good. And I think Huey's vocals, I think my favorite vocal performance from him on the entire album is on this one. Really, really good song. Almost was my number 1, but my number 1 is Heart and Soul. Catchy as hell. Love the big power chord riffs on the chorus. Love that. I'm a sucker for that. I like during the verse, it's kind of like this weird kind of funky reggae type thing. And plus the video has the adorable Signe Coleman, the blonde, who's also, I think, in I Want a New Drug, if I remember correctly. She was like nobody at the time, and she's just absolutely horrible. You know, the whole video, he's like searching for her and going, it's a really pointless video, but who cares? But yeah, for me, those two songs, Walking on a Thin Line and Heart and Soul, have always been my favorites on this album. And I think I like them better than any of the other mega hits, because all the other songs were bigger hits than these. But man, both so good and really fun tracks. And this is, I will say, I enjoyed listening to this album again for the first time in many, many years. Pretty fun. Again, not would I go out and buy it? No, but revisiting again after so many years, after hearing it so much back then in the day, was kind of refreshing to hear it again, because it's you know, it's just different than everything else I listened to, and it just kind of brought me back in time, because the 80s here in the States were all about like a lot of this type of music that, you know, I was into metal at the time, right? So you had all the big metal bands, but like what was popular that wasn't metal was this and Madonna and all these other kind of like pop bands. And, you know, Huey Lewis, like we've kind of talked about, didn't really fit anywhere. You know, it's like you had like, you know, Pat Benatar and Blondie and all, you know, you mentioned Men at Work and all this other stuff. And then you had Huey Lewis, right? And I think one of you guys mentioned pub rock before. And somehow I think that kind of fits what Huey Lewis and the News were all about. This is just, it's kind of like bar band rock and roll pop, and it's not overly flashy, and it's, and they're, exactly.
I think they played this place. I think that's why they chose
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did.
That's where the roots are.
Yeah. And it's like, and it just kind of fits, right? It's like, and that's why we talked about it. It's like, well, there's kind of some hard rock there, and there's like a little new wave there, and some pop there. And it's just, well, what really is it? Who cares? Right. But somehow it struck a chord with, you know, millions and millions of fans, and something to be said about that, right? Sometimes simple, just good time, fun rock and roll, party rock, party music is all you really need.
See, it's funny, back when I was young, it's a long time ago, it did matter to me what it was. It mattered to me that I listened to heavy metal. That was very much my identity. I had the denim jacket with the patches on the back and all. It was important that
I did too.
I represented heavy metal as much as I possibly could. And yet I liked this band back then. There's lots of things that I've retrospectively gone and thought, do you know what, that's actually much better than I gave it any credence for back then, because I wouldn't allow myself to like it. It wasn't metal, so I couldn't like it. I could like this for some reason.
Yeah.
Huey Lewis and the News just seemed to cross over in such a way that I found it back in my very much blinker days, even before prog had really entered my life, that I could see, but Huey Lewis and the News, they're good.
I always kind of look at it like, so I'll go back to that time, right? So again, I'm a little bit older than you. So at this time in 1983, I was listening to metal. But like we talked about before, how you listened to music was you went out and bought records, you listened to the radio, and you watched MTV. And I will say there were plenty of non-metal artists and bands that if they came on the radio, I'd be like, nope, and I would turn it off or turn the channel. I don't recall ever doing that to any Huey Lewis and the News song. So for whatever reason, there was something inoffensive to me about something as non-metal as Huey Lewis, and I never minded him at all. Again, I didn't go out and buy his stuff, but I was like, I knew a lot of people who listened to him. Everywhere you went, they were playing him. So I was like, okay, you know, it's okay. It's pretty good. And now all these years later, and you know, many, many years later, and a lot of gray hairs later, I'm kind of like, this is pretty good actually for what it is, right? So we'll see if everybody in the comments agrees with us here. That'll be.
I would hope that some people in the comments give it a little listen first, because I know that there will be prejudice.
Well, that's 100%. That's the thing, because I think
maybe I said that at the start, not the end.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I should pin a comment down there. Please, before you watch this video, please listen to the damn album first, right? Because I was skeptical too when you picked this one a little bit, but then I went and listened to it. I was like, oh, yeah, this is pretty good. It's like I can get into this. I think everybody just needs to. Sometimes it's good to revisit some of these albums from yesteryear that maybe, you know, your opinion was of a certain way and you haven't heard it since. And it's like, oh yeah, you know what? That's not so bad after all this time. So no, this was fun. This was fun.
Good.
I like doing these ones every now and then, right? Where you go and you revisit something, or maybe visit it for the first time, right? I mean, that happens too, because there's plenty of, you know, mega popular albums I'm sure that I've never listened to, and you know, cool. Steven, you want to give a little look into the crystal ball for 2 weeks from today?
Yes, indeed. We are back on the AOR stroke melodic rock road for the next show in 2 weeks' time. So the classic album, and I know it's not, okay? Don't comment at me in the comments. There is a reason. We've gone for Boston. Now we've already stop it. We've gone for Boston, but we've already covered the debut, and I think that we probably kind of waxed lyrical about the follow-up on that show as well. So we're going for third stages, which is probably a controversial choice from the Boston catalogue, but it's a classic nonetheless. So we'll see what we think of that. The underground classic is Crown of Thorns, their self-titled debut. Jean Beauvoir, who was in the Disciples of Soul, the Plasmatics. He wrote for Kiss on occasions. Crown of Thorns debut, and they made an AOR album. It's a band we mentioned a few times a few weeks ago. It's Blackfoot with Syogo. There were other choices, but we've gone for Syogo for they made an AOR album.
Quite the eclectic trio right there.
Isn't it just? Yeah. You think melodic rock, and a lot of people think, and it's really not. It's all over the place. Love it.
Yeah. We've got just so everybody knows, we've got a pretty packed schedule of things and topics for the three that we normally do for the weeks and months ahead. The last time we talked, we were like, holy shit, we got so much stuff in the hopper right now. So there's lots to get to. And it seems like every time we do that, then one of us comes up during the week. We're like, hey, we should include this and that. Like, yes, all right. Add another one to the list of 5,000 that we've already got. Sure. So, yeah. So stay tuned for another trio of AOR melodic rock classics and semi-classics and unknown classics and whatever coming up. And till then, please rank, if you care to, the songs of Huey Lewis and the News Sports down in the comments below, or just give us your opinion of the album, right? Yay or nay, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But I do urge everybody to go, if you're at all kind of skeptical about this album, go and listen to it. It's actually a lot of fun, and that'll be like kind of 40 minutes that I think it'll either take you down memory lane, or you'll be like, God, I wish I can get that 40 minutes back again, depending on what you think. I don't know, but no, hey, coming from me, it's a pretty good album. It's there's a lot of fun tracks on it, and this was fun. So I want to thank Simon and Steven, as always, for helping provide for such wonderful entertainment here on a Saturday afternoon. And visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Are we all empty? Steven, are you empty?
I'm twice empty.
Oh, okay. Jeez. Steven very quietly down that. I haven't even been watching, paying attention. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tune in 2 weeks from today for another episode of the UK Connection. Till then, what do we got coming up here on the channel? Oh, that's right. Tomorrow is Ranking the Albums Day, so tune in tomorrow for Gravy Train. People probably watching, who the hell is Gravy Train, right? So Gravy Train, a kind of obscure prog band from the UK from the early 70s. They've only got a handful of albums. I'll be ranking those tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for that. And till next time, for Simon and Steven, I am Pete. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you real soon here on the UK Connection. Bye-bye.